This is how being rejected, bullied, ostracized as an adolescent by your peers impacts you as an adult in your development or even your brain. A lot of us have experienced bullying in some shape or form. Maybe it wasn't, like you see in the American movies where someone puts you in your locker or in a bin trash or whatever it is. Maybe it was subtle bullying. Maybe it was social exclusion in a subtle way. Maybe it was comments made behind your back. Maybe it was, straight up people coming and insulting you. But whatever it was, it has a deep, deep impact on us as adults. And we don't usually talk about this. We talk about, childhood trauma, but people usually refer to their parents and in the period of time between, 1 and 10 years old. We rarely talk about the adolescence stage and how that has a huge impact on our development. So first and foremost, let's talk about what happens. The adolescent brain is extremely sensitive to social acceptance and social rejection. Our literally most important, goal when we're teenagers is to be accepted in our peer group, because that's how we develop, our identity, and that's how we start feeling worthy, by being accepted by our peers. And research shows that the acceptance of our peers becomes way more important than the acceptance, from our parents. We care way more about what our, middle school peers care about, think about us than what our parents think about us. And studies show that social rejection at that age can literally feel like the same as pain, like physical pain. It triggers the same neural circuits. So what happens if in that age of development, when social acceptance is so important, you don't get it? What happens if, it's impaired? We develop something called an identity freeze, which means that a part of us literally freezes in that moment of time. Let's say you experienced bullying when you were 13-year-old. That's when your identity froze. And we develop something called an internalized audience, which is, how our peers viewed us. We start seeing ourselves as that. So if we think, for instance, oh, I'm not good enough because I was excluded, and people see me as not good enough, or people see me as awkward, I start seeing myself as awkward and not good enough, because the adolescent brain, picks up on how other people see you and internalizes that. It's a psychological phenomenon. Now, what's interesting is that we carry that internalized audience that we develop when we're young into adulthood. So even when you're 30, for instance, you might still see yourself or have the same, critique that you had when you were 13, And because your identity froze in that moment of time and you felt like you weren't good enough, you start shaping your whole life around trying to regain the worth that you lost in adolescence. So everything you do is in an attempt to regain that validation, and it can be completely unconscious. So, a lot of people, if they were bullied in, middle school, high school, they will go on and become extremely successful, make loads of money, become famous, become an influencer, in an attempt to regain the validation that they lost. The problem, they don't get it back, because you cannot gain the validation, through external achievements and a validation that you lost, in the past. This is a past trauma, and this is your inner child, your inner adolescent feeling like they're not good enough. And no amount of external achievements will get you that validation. The only thing that actually works, to stop having that ghost audience from the past and trying to live your life to show your worth to that ghost audience, because maybe you're not even in touch with these people anymore, but you still judge yourself and try to prove yourselves to this ghost audience from the past. You know, the only thing that works is going inside of you and meeting that emotional need yourself. You know, giving yourself that inner child, that inner adolescent. You know, you could even like close your eyes and visualize them and letting them know that they're good enough. There's no amount of achievement or anything external that they need to do. They're just good enough for who they are. And they don't need to keep chasing these ghost goals that is like a mirage in the desert, because they keep moving the goalpost. You know, oh, I achieved 1 million followers and I still don't feel good enough. You know, they're actually chasing a feelings, which is an unmet need from the past. And then we're like, oh, but I don't feel good enough. So maybe it's like 5 million followers I need to achieve, or, you know, X amount of money. Like it keeps moving, right? It's like you're chasing a carrot or that you never get, or it's a mirage in the desert that keeps moving all the time the closer you get. Because it's not about the achievement. It's about the unmet emotional need inside of you. It's that internal validation that you need to give to yourself and to that inner adolescent, that inner child. And you need to make them feel like they are good enough as they are, because that's what you deserved. And what was done to you, the fact that you were bullied or excluded, it wasn't right. It shouldn't have happened. You didn't deserve it. Even if you feel like you did, you didn't deserve it. You deserve to be accepted because you were good enough. But because of circumstances, because, you know, kids are mean, you know, all kids are mean. They had their own trauma and shit. You know, kids want to feel superior to others because they actually deep down feel inferior. You know, all these things that happen when we're adolescents and children. It's not personal. And that's something you need to realize. The fact that you were bullied or excluded, it wasn't personal. And you were worthy back then, and you are worthy right now as well. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and take care. Lots of love.